At 10:50 local time, an Iranian Navy helicopter lifted off from the coast. Its mission clear harassed the USS Fitzgerald force a change of course and remind the world that Iran still claimed control over the Gulf. But what followed exposed the absurd mismatch between a relic of the 1970s and the most advanced destroyer afloat. Inside the Fitzgerald's Combat Information Center, sailors watched their consoles with a mix of amusement and disbelief. The Aegis radar system designed to track ballistic missiles in space now tracked what looked like a flying antique. Track 0341 identified instantly as an old SH-3, an anti-submarine helicopter export model Iran bought from America back when disco ruled the radio. Priority negligible. The system generated 47 firing solutions in seconds. In real combat, the helicopter would have been shredded before the crew even realized. The Fitzgerald was no merchant tanker from the 1980s tanker wars. She was a 10,000-ton warship with 90 vertical launch cells, each capable of hurling a supersonic missile 90 miles. Her gas turbines churned out 100,000 horsepower, driving her past 30 knots. Her Aegis combat system could track 100 targets and guide dozens of weapons at once. Against this, Iran fielded a helicopter whose Doppler radar had first seen service in Vietnam. As the SH-3 drew closer, the Fitzgerald's SLQ-32 electronic warfare suite came alive. Every pulse, every radar ping, every radio transmission was recorded. Think of it as a fingerprint scanner for the electromagnetic spectrum. Each emission became permanent data, stored, analyzed, turned into future ammunition. The irony was brutal. Iran's attempt to intimidate only handed America the exact playbook needed to blind and jam these aircraft in the future. Meanwhile, inside the Iranian cockpit, the crew fought their own machine as much as the sea wind. The rotor vibrated from bearings that should have been replaced decades ago. Warning lights flickered across the panel, most long since disconnected, because spare parts didn't exist. The pilot glanced at his fuel gauge. Fighting headwinds to keep pace with the destroyer was burning reserves fast. 45 minutes on station, maybe less, if both engines held. Against them stood American firepower that bordered on overkill. SM-2 missiles cost more than the helicopter itself, traveled at Mach 3.5, and could outmaneuver anything flying. The CIWS Gatling gun could spit 4,500 rounds per minute, enough tungsten to turn the helicopter into confetti. But the Fitzgerald didn't fire. Why waste ordnance? Why waste electricity? The mismatch was so lopsided, it was almost insulting. Still, Tehran demanded a show. The pilot shoved his collective diving the helicopter down to 500 feet, the old airframe groaning. This was classic harassment, fly low buzz, close provoke a reaction, then claim innocence on civilian channels if things turned ugly. Through scratched plexiglass, the crew saw the Fitzgerald ploughing steadily forward, wake foaming utterly indifferent. Then the radio crackled. "American warship, you are approaching Iranian territorial waters. Change course immediately." The accented English broke through static. Inside, the Fitzgerald's CIC sailors chuckled. They recorded every word, then had a female sailor respond over the net just to twist the knife. Meanwhile, the intel team grinned. Iran was transmitting on open civilian and military emergency frequencies, no encryption, no hopping, nothing beyond a Radio Shack scanner. Every word, every pulse was logged, building the US jamming library. Through Link 16, the Navy's encrypted tactical data link, the comedy spread in real time. Cruisers, carriers, aircraft across 200 miles all saw the same picture, the same track, the same kill solutions. If this were war, the helicopter would already be Swiss cheese 6 different ways. But inside the SH-3 trouble brewed. The fuel gauge dropped like a stone. Oil pressure flickered in the red. These engines were designed during the Johnson administration, and now they wheezed like asthmatics. Keeping up with a destroyer at 30 knots was draining their tanks dry. The crew chief tapped the pilot's shoulder, pointing at the gauges. The message was clear: leave or die. On deck, American sailors barely noticed. Some continued maintenance work. One even waved casually as the helicopter buzzed past, the kind of wave you give to tourists. To the Iranian crew, it was a deeper insult than missiles. They weren't even worth the effort of raising general quarters. The pilot keyed his mic again, voice cracking. "This is your final warning. Change course, now." To the Fitzgerald's bridge, it sounded like a toddler refusing bedtime. But this was the real mission capture audio of warnings. Record close passes, create propaganda footage to show on Iranian state TV. Not to actually threaten, just to look like they did. The Fitzgerald didn't answer. She simply continued her scheduled course correction routine navigation, unrelated to the helicopter. But when her bow turned, the Iranian pilot pounced. "The American warship is retreating," he declared over the net, claiming victory. In reality, he was out of time. Fuel down to 800 pounds, one engine overheating, the other bleeding oil. The SH-3 was held together by duct tape and prayers. Stay longer and they ditch in the Gulf. With no choice, the pilot turned for home. Back aboard, Fitzgerald's sailors collected the recordings, laughing. "Sir, I can tell you what he had for breakfast," one joked, replaying the open chatter. The intel team had scored a bonanza. The helicopter was gone, but its emissions now lived forever in US libraries. Hours later, Iranian state TV broadcast their version triumphant music grainy footage announcers declaring that America had retreated from Iranian waters. It was fiction, but fiction was the point. Tehran needed a story of strength to mask its weakness. For the Fitzgerald, it was a sideshow. For Iran, it was theater. But for those who understood naval warfare, the truth was obvious. The only weapon Iran successfully deployed that day was propaganda. If you want more high-impact war stories like this, subscribe now and hit the bell. Don't miss the next battle that reshapes the seas.